I'm Admiral Owen Swart, Commanding Officer of the USS Dauntless and Regional Coordinator of Region 8, and welcome to the VIC 2023. For our introductory video this year, I wanted to tell you a little bit about one of my favorite places here in Region 8, and that is Cheetah Outreach. Where is Cheetah Outreach? It's in a town called Somerset West. If you look over my shoulder there, you can see some of the Hottentots Holland Mountains off in the distance over there. And where is that? Well, that's just to the east of the big city, Cape Town, on the southern tip of South Africa, right on the southern tip of Region 8. What does Cheetah Outreach do? Well, Cheetah Outreach, as the name suggests, is involved in cheetah conservation. This facility here in Somerset West is our education and fundraising facility, where we interface with tourists, primarily international tourists who come here to Cape Town to visit the beautiful sights and sounds of the southern tip of Africa, and we teach them about the plight of the cheetah and cheetah conservation status, as well as the various other things that we're doing to try and help cheetahs in the wild. Our other facility, which is owned by Cheetah Outreach Trust up in South Africa's northern areas in Limpopo province, is where we have our dog breeding program. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. Alright, so this is Kitu. Kitu is a 6-year-old male cheetah. He lives here with his two brothers, Tobias and Tanashi. They're in separate enclosures today because we prefer to keep them separate while we're working with them. Kitu is relatively small for a male cheetah. Typically their size is 45 to 55 kilograms, but Kitu here is about 40 kilograms, so he's a little guy. That's just genetic. He's busy looking over my shoulder right now. He's watching a different cheetah in the enclosure next door, because male cheetahs are territorial in that way. So he is keeping a very close eye on Chobi, who's in the enclosure over there, just to make sure that he's not making any kind of threatening moves. Although we'd never obviously let the two of them be in an enclosure together because we wouldn't want them to fight, they are still very interested in what each other does. So cheetahs are the fastest predator on land, and everything about his physiology is adapted for speed. From his from his small cone-shaped head like the front of an airplane, to his small external ears, his sleek aerodynamic fur, his long legs so that they can reach and make long strides, his very light and delicate bones. So these amber eyes are adapted to be able to see extreme detail up to 5 kilometers in the distance. He can make out something the size of a Thompson's gazelle, which we call a springbok, which would be his preferred meal in the wild. He also has exceptional hearing. He can hear sounds up to 3 kilometers away, but unlike most other large cats, cheetahs are daytime predators. So his adaptations are for hunting in daylight, not at nighttime. So his eyesight would help him during the day, and that's why he has those black tear marks on his face. They help to mitigate the glare from the sun. Although his nose is quite large, his sense of smell is not that great. Oh dear, big guy, there you go. His sense of smell is not that great. It's only slightly better than ours. Their sense of smell is not their preferred hunting sense. If you look closely at his claws, you'll notice that they're not very sharp. Unlike most cats, cheetahs don't have fully retractable claws. They are what we call protractable, and they stay out most of the time. This is to help him when he's running, so he can dig them into the ground. Big boy. He can dig them into the ground and get superior traction in order to gain more speed. And their speed, again, is their primary survival adaptation. So they will run to hunt, and they will run away from predators, from other large predators. They're not really built for fighting, so running is their primary thing, and their speed is phenomenal. So he can get from 0, from this position here, up to 80 kilometers an hour in roughly 3.2 seconds. His speed maxes out at around 110 kilometers an hour, so that's the speed of a car on the freeway. But he can only maintain that speed for a few seconds, 20 to 30 seconds maximum, at which point he's either made his kill or he's escaped his predator, and at that point he has to rest. He's going to need to take at least half an hour to catch his breath, cool down, before he's going to be able to eat the prey that he killed. And during that time, that's when he's at his most vulnerable. That's when other large predators, lions, hyenas, leopards, might come along and either steal the kill that he's made or kill him himself. So he has to hide himself very carefully during that time. Kitu, of course, is not a wild cheetah, so he wouldn't be doing any of those kinds of things. He's been raised here in captivity by hand from day one, so he's very used to being around people, and he has never had to hunt for his food. He gets fed his daily meals in a bowl, chopped up, typically made out of chicken. While cheetahs are known for running fast, it's not really something that they'll do for fun. They'll typically only do it for survival reasons, whether that's pursuing prey or escaping large predators. But it is still a natural part of their behavior, and although they don't have reasons to run in captivity, living under human care, we do still like to be able to provide them the opportunity to indulge in that natural behavior in a way that's safe and constructive for them. So what we do is we offer them a running enclosure. So there's a large track with a mechanical pulley attached to a plastic lure, and they can chase that around. If they're not interested in the lure, which is true of some of them, we provide them the alternative of having one of our volunteers ride their bicycle up and down the fence, and they'll chase him along that way. And that seems to produce the desired result. Well, what about the plight of the cheetah? So back in Star Trek VI, The Voyage Home, we remember that Dr. Gillian Taylor told us that in 1986 there were less than 10,000 humpback whales left in the wild, and they were on the verge of extinction. Today, in 2024, there are less than 7,000 cheetah left in the world, and they are even more endangered than humpbacks were in the 1980s. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to fix that problem, to solve the problem, and bring about the safe return of the cheetah species. But how bad is it really? So I've got some visual aids here that might assist. So if you take a look at here, this is the previous cheetah habitat that was roughly 100 years ago. The pink areas over here. Cheetah could be found throughout Region 8 and even further over into Asia. Now cheetahs can pretty much only be found here in sub-Saharan Africa, with a couple of isolated pockets of population around the rest of the continent. The bulk of the cheetah population is here in Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa. Along the South African northern border here is where you find the free-roaming cheetah today. There's a significant portion of the cheetah population that live under human protection, so that's in private nature reserves, private game reserves, public nature reserves like the Kruger Park and the Transfrontier Park over here, and also in private collections around the world, zoos and that kind of thing. But a couple thousand cheetahs left in the wild are an extreme risk, and they're at risk due to their worst natural predator, which is humankind. The biggest risk to cheetah survival in the wild is conflict with human beings, specifically farmers. So farmers move into their cheetah habitat and they bring with them their livestock. Cheetahs are predators and they want to eat animals, so sometimes every now and then they will snatch a sheep or a goat. Farmers obviously want to protect their livestock and their livelihood from cheetahs and other predators, so they will employ lethal predator control, guns, traps and poison, to try and manage those predator populations. This has had a devastating effect on cheetahs particularly, in a way that hasn't affected other large predatory species. Cheetahs are especially vulnerable in a number of ways, partly because they're not apex predators, so they are predated upon by other large predators. They have naturally weak immune systems, so they're vulnerable to disease. Their hunting style is so specialized that they can lose their prey to other large predators as well, so they're only getting to eat every 2 or 3 days, even though they have a very high success rate for their hunting. I'll tell you a little bit more about how they hunt in a minute. Cheetahs are a particularly vulnerable and charismatic species, and we want to do our best to try and make sure that they survive. And we have, here at Cheetah Outreach, a strategy to make that happen. So our solution to provide farmers an option to avoid lethal predator control is these Anatolian Shepherd livestock guardian dogs. Anatolian Shepherds are an American breed of dog that is derived from stock that comes from modern-day Anatolia, which is a part of Region 8 up in what is now called modern-day Turkey. Two breeds of dogs specifically, Kangals and Karabashes, have been bred for 5,000 years up in that part of the world, specifically to protect livestock from large predators like wolves and bears. They work even better when it comes to cheetahs, because cheetahs are non-confrontational animals. Because they're not built for fighting, they will flee from any other animal they see as a threat. Anatolian Shepherds are quite large and quite intimidating if they want to be, although these two don't look very intimidating right now. So they have the natural instinct to protect their family, or in the case of these animals, their herd. So these dogs would be raised with a herd of livestock, of sheep or goats or something like that. From the time where they're just a few weeks old, they'll imprint on the herd, consider them their family, and will then defend them to the death if necessary. But it's almost never necessary. Because cheetahs and most other predators will think twice before messing with a dog like this, all they have to do is just hang around with the livestock, and their mere presence is usually enough to protect that livestock from predation. This right here is Garland. She's our mama, and that's her daughter Compton. Garland was one of the breeding dogs from our breeding facility where we breed Anatolian Shepherds up in the northern parts of South Africa in what we call Limpopo province, because that is the free-ranging cheetah habitat. So from there, the dogs can be deployed to the farms, more easily. So Garland has spent the last few years up in our breeding facility where she was the mom to several generations of our Anatolian Shepherd livestock guardian dogs. Her daughter Compton here is here to be raised to be around people so that she can return to the breeding facility in a few months where she can be the mom to the next few generations of livestock guardian dogs. So these two are a very important part of our program. Garland has now reached the age where she's no longer interested in having any more pups, so she's moved down to our facility here in Somerset West, where she can live out her retirement in the lap of luxury, and we can spoil her and thank her for her service. I'm here with Grace. Grace is a caracal. Caracal is a medium-sized predatory cat. You might think that to look at her, because she has those tufts on her ears, that she might be a lynx or related to a lynx. As it happens, that is not the case. Caracals and lynxes are not closely related at all, but they do fill a similar ecological niche. And that is a medium-sized predatory cat that is capable of preying on animals much larger than herself. So Grace here weighs about 16 kilograms. I know it's indelicate to say that about a lady, but she doesn't mind. And she can take down prey up to 4 times her size, which means something roughly the size of 60 kilograms, which is pretty much what you'd expect a small sheep or a goat to be. So although her preferred meal would be wild animals, she will occasionally, or would occasionally, prey on livestock. So that's things like sheep and goats, chickens, that kind of thing that farmers obviously wouldn't enjoy. So although she's a perfectly respectable cat, farmers might disagree and they might consider her a pest. They might engage in lethal predator control methods like guns, traps and poison to manage caracal populations on their property. Caracals are extraordinarily athletic. She's a fast runner. She can run up to 60 or 70 kilometers an hour. She's also capable of jumping 3 or 4 meters straight up in the air and 5 meters horizontally. She has very powerful razor-sharp claws and very sharp teeth, excellent eyesight, excellent night vision, everything you'd expect from a medium-sized cat. This here is Liberty. Liberty is a serval, another medium-sized predatory cat. Unlike caracals, servals are not capable of taking down prey larger than themselves. So although he's a prodigious hunter, he typically goes for prey that's much, much smaller. So that's rodents, reptiles, fish, frogs, birds. He is an extraordinarily athletic cat. He's also capable of jumping up to 3 meters in the air, but with such dexterity in his paws that he can actually grab a bird from the air, snatch it right out of the air, and eat it like that. They're closely related to caracals, despite the considerable difference in appearance. Much larger ears. Servals have the largest ears relative to their body size out of every cat. You'll notice that his spots are kind of similar to a cheetah as well. He has a very similar color pattern. That's fairly common among most cat species. What's interesting about servals when it relates to cheetah conservation is that although they do not prey on livestock, unlike caracals, servals are sometimes also caught in the crossfire in the war between farmers and large predators. So when farmers are using lethal predatory control, things like guns, traps and poison, servals will sometimes get caught in those traps. They will sometimes eat poisoned meat, and that's a detriment to their survival, obviously. They will also, because they have a similar color pattern, they'll sometimes be mistaken for baby cheetahs and might even get shot by farmers trying to protect their livestock from cheetahs. So if we can eliminate that lethal predator control from the environment, servals are also going to be beneficiaries of that program. Kubwa here is a bat-eared fox. So bat-eared foxes, like servals, are not a threat to farmers at all. In fact, they're not even true foxes. Regular foxes are carnivorous. The bat-eared foxes are primarily insectivorous. So they will eat the bulk of their diet in the form of insects. The preferred diet of bat-eared foxes is actually termites. And a single bat-eared fox can eat as many as 1 million termites in a year. You'll notice that he has very large ears. That is so that he's able to detect termites crawling in their tunnels underneath the surface. He also has large, powerful claws that he can use for digging. He's also very friendly and sociable because that's typical bat-eared fox behavior as well. Kubwa here is actually a little baby. He's only a few months old and was rescued where he was orphaned from a farm nearby, and we were able to get permission to look after him and add him to our bat-eared fox family that we already had here. Which is why he's quite active, because he's just a little guy. He's pretty much fully grown though at this point, so this is pretty much what an adult bat-eared fox would look like. So these really, really large, very sensitive ears are able to detect the movement of insects underneath the surface. You can dig down there and get it. The reason he's here is because, like servals, he can also get caught in the crossfire between farmers and large predators. So when traps and poison are left out for larger predators, these guys might take some of it, because in addition to being insectivorous, they're also opportunistic scavengers. Also at a distance, they can be mistaken for black-backed jackals, which are also another pest species, and they're sometimes shot by farmers thinking that they're shooting those jackals. So I'm here in the enclosure with our black-backed jackal, Moya. Unlike the other animals in this facility, Moya isn't comfortable with me being inside the enclosure with him, so I'm just going to do this through the fence. We have a long-standing relationship through the fence, which is how I feed him, but he's only comfortable with very certain people going into the enclosure. He approves the list personally, and I haven't yet made the cut. Hopefully someday we will. Moya is here representing the black-backed jackal species. Black-backed jackals are interesting because if you look at him, you might think that he was a fox. He's got the pointy ears, pointy snout, and bushy tail of a fox. But we now know that black-backed jackals are not foxes at all. They are, in fact, wolves, one of 3 species of wolf indigenous to the African continent. Black-backed jackals are a huge pest to farmers. Although he's relatively small, jackals hunt in packs of up to 30 individuals and can raid farms, devastating their livestock. Very, very efficient hunters, very intelligent, very adaptable. They're able to communicate and coordinate their hunting strategies and can decimate a herd of livestock, so that's sheep, goats, or even cattle, in a single night. So these guys are the real enemies of livestock farmers in and around South Africa. And that's where our Anatolian Shepherd Livestock Guardian program is particularly effective. Because Anatolian Shepherds are dogs, they're members of the wolf family as well, they're grey wolves, and these guys are relatively close relatives. They kind of speak the same language. Anatolian Shepherds mark the territory around the area where the livestock lives, and these guys are able to read their chemical signals. They can sense the presence of a larger, potentially more dangerous wolf, and they'll know to keep their distance. That in itself pretty much does the trick. And once we've deployed the Anatolian Shepherds onto farms, we see livestock losses, primarily as a result of black-backed jackals, drop from 60 to 70% per annum, all the way down to 0 to 5%. So a significant drop in livestock losses, almost exclusively because of our Anatolian Shepherd livestock guardian dogs deterring black-backed jackals from raiding those livestock farms. Really, really effective, but they're really sweet animals, really intelligent, and if they let you get to know them, they can be very effective as well. This here is Scoop. Scoop is a meerkat. Meerkats are a species of mongoose, so they're not rodents as people might often think. Meerkats are also very sociable, and they are not directly related to our conservation mission here at Cheetah Outreach. But what he is here to do is to represent a different aspect of cheetah conservation that affects cheetah populations further north, up in places like Ethiopia and Somaliland, which is the black market. Cheetahs are live hunted. So what that means is that poachers go out into the environment, and they will kill the mom, steal the cubs, and then sell them on the black market as pets, primarily in the Middle East, which is also part of Region A. There's a similar situation with these guys here in Southern Africa, where they are poached from the wild and then sold as pets on the side of the road. That's how Scoop came to be here. What are you doing? So he was picked up by a well-meaning local from poachers who were selling him on the side of the road, tried to rescue him. Turned out that well-meaning local wasn't well equipped to look after a wild meerkat, so he was surrendered to us, and that's how he came to join our little family here. So Scoop is fairly young. He's one of our youngest residents, and he's very playful, as you can see, and really enjoys social interaction with people whenever he can.
Recently celebrated my 4th anniversary as a volunteer at Cheetah Outreach. Volunteers are the backbone of our operation, and all our funding comes from visitors to the facility or through private donations. I'd like to invite you to support Cheetah Outreach and make a difference in the conservation of these magnificent creatures. Your donations can help fund critical programs for the protection and rehabilitation of cheetahs, promote education and awareness about their plight, and support local communities in their efforts to live alongside these amazing predators. Alternatively, join our international volunteer program and directly contribute to cheetah conservation through hands-on involvement. Whether you choose to donate or volunteer, your actions can help secure a brighter future for cheetahs and ensure their survival for generations to come. And should you choose to make the trip out here to Region 8 to join our volunteer team, even if only for a few weeks, coffee is on me. Region 8 out.